Alright, hello everyone, it's silverkyle, and today I'm going to be going over the Xbox Series X, and I am never going to get used to that title. I don't understand how Microsoft has such a hard time naming their consoles. Xbox One was a horrible idea, and now we're going with Xbox Series X, and I think Xbox Series S or something. I don't change it with a letter. You have to really, just say, okay, this is the Xbox One, being the Xbox original, because that's what we all used to call it. Then Xbox 360. That was fine. It was weird, but it works. 360. We all thought 720 would be the next one. I don't know. PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Easy, simple. Nintendo, for the most part, gives its Nintendo 64, Nintendo GameCube, Super Nintendo. Wii and Wii U is where they kind of failed. And then you look at the Wii U sales, and it's like, maybe because they just added an extra letter at the end that it failed. It's a possibility, because people could be somewhat confused. And if people made the argument that the Wii U failed because that they just, the naming sucked, which I agree, it did suck, then the Xbox Series X is going to fail as well for that same reason. I don't think it actually will. I think that a lot of people actually just don't like Xbox and Microsoft. And you can like whatever consoles you like. I just like games, and I don't really care where I'm playing it. I just want to play the games. So anyway, enough about the title, but we're going to be talking about their event here, which was with their first party games, and I felt that they did a better job than their first reveal, where obviously it wasn't their first party game, so it wasn't going to be nearly as... I honestly feel that they shouldn't have done that first one, because it just left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And why would you do that? You want the first impressions are always the ones that matter the most, and I think that having this one and then the other one would have worked a lot better, or you could have mix and matched them both. Showed a little bit less time on each of these games specifically, other than their really big games, and shown the other games as well. I think that might have worked a little bit better, but whatever. Because then you have the PlayStation 5 event. And the PlayStation 5 event, while it did have a lot of high highs, it had a lot of low lows as well. There was like 20 to 30 minutes where I was just like bored out of my mind, and I was like, can this event just end in the PlayStation 5 event? Whereas this one, I felt that the pacing was a lot better, and while there wasn't really as many high highs, there is still definitely a few games here that were a little bit more, that kept my interest throughout the entire thing. There was still definitely things that I was just like, that looks like trash, and I don't want anything to do with that. But yeah. Let's get into this, because I'm spending way too much time ranting beforehand. They started this off with Halo Infinite, and this is honestly potentially one of the games that makes me want to get the Xbox Series X day one, as opposed to the PlayStation 5. I might get both. We're going to have to see on the price point for both of those systems, and the launch games, and exclusive launch games. Now, I know I could play Halo Infinite on my Xbox One X. I could. But I want to play any game that is on the Xbox Series X. I don't want to get it for the Xbox One. I want to get it for the Xbox Series X. That's just how I am. I'm OCD like that. Unless it's like, before the like, for example, I think I have Cyberpunk that's going to be coming out, and I have Marvel Avengers, and I think that they are going to be also on the next gen consoles. But I'm okay with that, because they're coming out before, maybe not Cyberpunk, but at least Marvel Avengers is coming out beforehand. Before the new system. So I'm okay with getting that on the previous gen, the current gen right now. But yeah, Halo Infinite, going open world, that, and having a grappling hook. I mean, the grappling hook isn't going to be the thing that sells me on the game, but open world, Halo, that's exactly what I want. Halo was one of my favorite games. Like Halo 2, that was totally my life for like 3 years. I probably put over 2,000 hours into that multiplayer. Halo 3, I played still quite a bit. Halo Reach, I absolutely loved the multiplayer in. I liked it a lot more than Halo 3. Halo 4 was also very good, but I didn't put as many hours into it. And I don't know if that has to do with my age, and I just wasn't as much into FPSs at the time. And then I didn't play Halo 5 at all. I have it, but I just haven't played it. But I've beaten Halo 5, Halo 1 to 4, Halo Reach as well. And I played them numerous times. I just never got back to Halo 5. Halo Infinite, though, makes me want to go and play that game and beat it, and try out the multiplayer as well for it before this one comes out. So definitely looking forward to Halo Infinite. The other nice thing is that it makes it seem as if you're going to be playing Master Chief the entire time. I don't know why they always make it a main character that everybody ends up loving, and then they're like, let's change that and make you play as somebody else. No, nobody wants to play as somebody else. If we like a character, don't change the character. They're so stupid. When marketing is such an important tool, and you have something that works, that everybody loves, that everybody really loves. Like, Master Chief is Halo. That voice, that iconic voice, that's Halo. Why would you change that? They're so dumb sometimes. But it looks like they're fixing it with Halo Infinite. Next up, they showed State of Decay 3. Didn't really care for this. I played State of Decay 2 for only a little bit, and granted, it was only for like an hour or two, or maybe a few more, like 3 hours max. Didn't really do anything for me, so I'm not really excited for this one. Then they showed Forza Motorsport. Now, Forza racing games I don't care for. Unless it's a kart racer, I rarely ever care for it. And Forza Motorsport, if it was Forza Horizon, there would be a chance because it's a little bit more arcadey. But Forza Motorsport, no interest at all. However, this game looked next-gen. As next-gen as we can. Because we're never going to get the leaps that we used to. And I always feel like I would much rather than just keep the current consoles, because I don't really care for the upgrades that we get. I know that it's going to have better frame rates and all that kind of stuff. And it's going to look with ray tracing or something like that. And yes, this game did look very good. But it's still, to me, comparable to what we're currently playing. It's obviously nicer. And this one sold me the most on next gen. But it's still, to me, we'll get into other stuff in another video about how I look at games now and how everything seems the same. Yes, it looks more realistic, but and that's good. But it's a smaller leap that we're getting each time. And the closer that we get to realism, the more everything starts to look the same. And I play video games to escape reality to a degree, so I don't necessarily want to be playing all these games that all look alike because they're all trying to look realistic, and they're not going. If they don't go into a cartoony route, they all look the same. And that's not exactly what I want. So we'll talk about that in another video. But yeah, Forza Motorsport, have to say it looked really good. Not interested in the game itself, but that's the most I've seen for a next-gen game, other than maybe the sequel to Hellblade that we'll get into in a little bit. Well, they didn't really show too much of it, but anyway. Next up, they showed Everwild by Rare, and this looks fantastic. This feels like an actual Rare game that, since going to Microsoft, this is what I've been wanting from them for the longest time. And it looks beautiful, it looks glorious, and the nice thing is that they didn't go for a realistic look. It looks like a video game. When I'm looking at that, I'm like, that's a video game. When you're looking at a realistic game, you can kind of sometimes say, like, if you're looking from far away, you can kind of say, oh, is that a movie or is that a video game? Which is awesome that we're at that point where we can compare them. But I want video games to look like video games still. It's really weird. I'm going to talk more about that in a separate video. But yeah, Everwild, with all these animals in the nature, and you get to use these animals to kind of help you out going around through this world, to do specific things, to unlock maybe puzzles or something like that, or to carry one item to another place. I really like this idea. It just looks like fun, and when you include animals, and it's different kinds of animals that we've never seen that are not on Earth, I'm into that. Next up, they showed a little bit of Will of the Wisps, and they're making something specifically for the Xbox Series X for it. And what I liked here is that they actually showed a comparison of, I think it was 60 frames per second, and then what would we play on the Xbox Series X, which is 120 hertz. And you could see the actual difference, how seamless it was when it was 120 hertz on the Xbox Series X. And I was like, okay, there you have me sold a little bit, because they slowed it down. But at the same time, I will have to try it and see how I feel about that. But I don't know. I'd have to play it side by side, honestly, because for me, I can play a game at 30 frames per second and still just be having as much fun. So, I just logged myself out there. Okay, next up is The Outer Worlds. Have no interest in that game, so I didn't care for anything if they were talking about that. Then they showed Grounded. I loved this trailer. If you have not seen this trailer, it's hilarious. If you're waiting for the next big game, then wait for Cyberpunk 2077. If you're looking for a small game, then here's Grounded. They had a bunch of jokes that I absolutely loved, because I always feel that so many games are like, this is the most intense game you've ever seen, and they're all very serious. And then they're using the same voice, but they kept making fun of themselves. And I love that. I'm so sick and tired of every game saying that it's the best game ever. Most of these games, nobody's going to remember in 2 to 3 years from now. Most of the time. This made me laugh, and I like that so much more, because it's being different, once again, from the norm. We need that. The game itself is you're shrunk down, and you can play multiplayer, which kind of looks fun, and you can kind of help each other out or not help each other out. And they had another funny thing where it's like, are you going to help your teammates or let them get eaten by the spider so you can go on your own and save yourself? And then it was just I love that trailer. Really liked it. The game looks fun. I will say that I would probably check this game out, honestly. Next up, they showed a little bit of a game called Avowed. This I kind of get a vibe of Skyrim a little bit because it's a first-person game, also fantasy setting, and medieval fantasy setting. And then they had like this door, and it seemed like it was the Balrog coming from Lord of the Rings, which I was like, this is really cool. And he's kind of like doing this like magic thing with his left hand, and he had like a purple flame in it while he's holding his sword that was kind of lit up by these like runes. Looked kind of cool. Could be interesting. Gonna have to see gameplay for this, but I was like, I will definitely be keeping an eye out for that game. Then they showed As Dusk Falls, an interactive drama game, and yeah, granted, this does look very different because it looks more like painted pictures that are kind of moving and not really moving. And it's different, but it did not look interesting to me in the slightest. I'm happy they went with something different, but man, that game just looks like I would be bored out of my mind playing it. Next up, they showed a little bit of Hellblade 2. I don't know what it's actually going to be called. This game also looks fantastic. I would say that this game, in some of the scenes that they were showing, and I get that there were probably not gameplay here, and Forza really sold me on what next gen is actually going to be looking like. And I was like, okay, there's enough now of a difference. I still don't feel there's... It's weird. I'm saying that there's enough, but I'm also kind of like, yeah, but it's I just want the big leaps that we used to have before, and it did look very nice though, and I do want to play that. I haven't played the first Hellblade. I have it. I should get on that very soon because I've heard so many good things about it. They showed Psychonauts 2. I'm not as interested in that, and it's weird because that game also, it's very cartoony and stuff, but that game just really didn't look that much like it would be that much fun. Never played the first one though, so maybe that's why I'm not super tied to it. They showed some Destiny 2 DLC or whatever that's coming out in November. Not necessarily interested in that. Stalker 2, some kind of horror game that I wasn't interested in. Darktide Warhammer, and I think now all these next games are going to be console launch exclusives. So they're going to get them first on Xbox Series X before it goes on PlayStation 5, I assume. Darktide Warhammer looked okay. Not super interested in that. They had Tetris Effect Connected, which I feel is just going to be multiplayer Tetris, kind of like what we have on the Nintendo Switch right now. So Tetris is always awesome, but I've already gotten enough from... What is it called? Tetris... I don't know what it's called, but the Tetris that we play where you play against 98 other players or whatever, super fun. But I already have it on the Switch, so I don't need another multiplayer Tetris game. The Gunk looked like it could be interesting. It was a third-person game where you're going around and I guess there's gunk everywhere, and they kind of have like this gauntlet on that they were able to kind of remove some of it, and then nature kind of takes over afterwards. Looks like it could be interesting, but a lot of it looked similar in the levels that they were going into, and it just didn't look super fun. I mean, if they changed up the levels quite a bit, then maybe, but it looked like you were always in these like gunk caverns, and I don't know. Maybe. They showed The Medium again, which we've seen before. Still not interested in that game. It's not really my cup of tea. I think that if you're into that genre, though, that this would be definitely a big game for that genre. It's just not for me. They showed Phantasy Star Online 2 coming out for 2021. This is once again a console launch exclusive. All the ones that I've been talking about since Darktide Warhammer are console launch exclusives, I believe. This could be fun. An action RPG that's multiplayer. I mean, Phantasy Star's been around for a while. It doesn't look a little bit janky. It doesn't look like it's going to be the smoothest ride that you could get, but it's a little bit like I see like a fantasy setting with more of an RPG style of Monster Hunter, like a JRPG Monster Hunter online game that's more futuristic than Monster Hunter, where that's more medieval times. Could be fun if I can get enough people to play it with me. And then they showed Crossfire, which is I think the only first-person shooter. I guess no, they showed Destiny 2 as well, but and Halo, obviously. But yeah, we didn't get a lot of first-person shooters, and this they showed looks like it could be good. Don't know. Don't. I was kind of like though at the same time because I've had enough first person shooters that are like that, and then they ended it off with a Fable reboot, I guess, or something, it was a teaser of it. So that was a good way to end it. Kind of like they did with New Horizon, Forza New Horizon. Is that what it's called? What is that game called? Because I'm on PlayStation 4. Where is it? Horizon, not Forza. Duh. Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever it's called. So ended it off with Fable. Very happy about that. I loved the Fable series. Really looking forward to a new game in the series, whether it's a reboot or like just another game in that series. So out of all of this, I would say that the things that interested me the most would be Halo Infinite, definitely. Like that's day one, obviously, if I get the console. Everwild, I would say that's actually my number 2. Fable would be my number 3. Hellblade. And then Grounded and Arrowed. And then everything else I kind of just, not really for me. So 7 games. Why did I think that this was on par with the PlayStation 5 event? I don't know. Maybe PlayStation 5 was better. But maybe because that's Halo and Everwild really excite me, and same with Fable, that maybe I'm thinking that this is better than it actually is. Maybe I'm wrong. PlayStation 5 might have done a better job. Either way, I wasn't super jazzed with both of them, but there's still some games here that I'm very much looking forward to. I say that they did an okay job, is what I'm going to go with. So let me know in the comments below what you're most excited for about this. How do you think Microsoft did? Oh, and everything here that they've mentioned will be on Game Pass. I don't care about Game Pass because it's digital games. Obviously, I don't care about that. I only care about physical games. My phone's ringing. It's a good time. My other phone is ringing. I don't know why that's ringing. Anyway, this is a good time to end it. So thank you all for watching. You've been bearded in. Beardage!